that I think we need to think about specifically because we have a problem recruiting men for mentoring, right? I don't mean to sort of be an advocate of a feminist agenda here. I'm just trying to point out that we're not doing something right with mentoring in terms of getting all the men in we want. And men, truthfully, when we are getting the men we want, they're not doing such a good job, especially with older boys, with whom they seem to take on a paternalistic, somewhat prescriptive style. So the last piece that seemed important in really differentiating relationships was thinking about what's the purpose of the interaction. Because a goal-directed activity could be, I want to learn how to shoot a basketball, you know, or I want to, like my son loves to do, I want to make an airplane and throw it across the room. That's an activity that's fun in the moment and serves no ultimate purpose of any real meaning for adults. But he loves it, right? So activities may serve a purpose for the youth or for youth generally. Typically those are fun, they're in the moment. They sort of free you from the notion of thinking about the future. They're not connected to grades and behavior and jobs and these things. They're having fun. And in fact, the one activity that in several studies is the best predictor of a strong relationship is having fun. Board games are especially helpful in like school-based matches, right? But also play outside. Playing, crafts, board games, active, fun stuff that I would say has a youthful purpose is what's the most impactful. It's even more helpful, it seems, than these relational conversations. I was just about to ask if you have any questions.
I was listening to you talk about the difference between like elementary boys and high school boys, and when you were talking about authorship, it just strikes me as obvious, and maybe I'm off base here, but high school students have already written a lot of their story. They need less input from us about their story. They need us to hear their story, and then we can slowly put things into it, you know, add pieces. But when you talk about collaboration and writing the story together, I think like the high school students I work with, their story may be totally wrong, but they've already written it.
So they have a sense of sort of who they are, where they come from, maybe not as clear a sense of where they're going, and you're thinking rather than us, what we might help do is help them, sort of like in the movie, in the clip you're going to see in a minute, when they made old-time cartoons. There were the cells, there were the characters, you know? Then there was the background, right? And the background was completely, I found, because I got really into these cells, they call. So the actual characters don't have any background. But in this case, with youth, you're suggesting that the youth and adolescents have their own story. What they might need is help contextualizing it, placing it. Yeah, Mike Nuckola, my mentor, had this technique. He worked in the schools, as did I, as a school counselor, and he had this technique he called grade graphing. Seems real simple, but with middle school kids who really aren't thinking long term, he would have the kids talk about what they wanted to be when they grew up, and then they got their grades, and he sort of plotted them out. Because he said, oh, you want to be a lawyer? You know, well, here's the level of education you need to achieve, right? And here we are in middle school with our grades, and then he would put the dots there and draw the line and say, something's not quite fitting here, right? To help them place their here and now into the future. Well, that's interesting. I've never thought about that. Thank you. Do you want to say more about that?
No, I have a lot of middle school and high school students on my caseload.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter whether I start relational or directive. The bottom line is with them is I have to start with them, as you were saying earlier, with them telling me their story. Because they've got it already.
Awesome. Neat. All right. I like this. Let's roll forward. I'm going to pull these things together. You have... I saw that. We want to pull these dimensions together in kind of a grid to sort of help us grab onto them. And then we're going to apply the grid in a little while. Let me walk you through this. You have this as the first grid, and this is the team framework pulled together with using these different dimensions. What we have right in the middle is interactions. Everything from here to here to here to here. Those are all interactions that pull together elements of what's unique about you, your interests, your background, your goals, and me, my interest, my background, my goal. So that when we decide what we're doing, it's really a unique combination of us, right? It's sort of like we're making a baby, right? Never use that metaphor. Probably shouldn't take it any further, but you get what I mean. I was actually trying to avoid another metaphor. Which I'm still trying to avoid. So here we have this sense of we. The sense of we. That what's happened has been shaped by, determined by, created by us together uniquely. And what me and Karen would decide to do together is not what me and Adby would do together. Because we're bringing together different... Now, if we wanted to cooperate, we could take turns, and I would do the same thing in both relationships. But if I'm going to collaborate, right, then I have to flex according to what your needs are, and you do the same. So you want to go skating, I want to paint a picture. We decided to go see a movie because that meets both of our needs, and it strengthens our relationship. We both made a sacrifice for the relationship. We've invested in the relationship, right? And we've moved away from doing what I want to do to what we want to do, right? Now, the nice thing about this, the crazy thing about this grid is that it actually tries to put in 4 dimensions in a 2-dimensional grid. It's very, very easy to use to confuse people. So, in addition to these reflecting a single perspective, but you'll see that they do, this is also, in this grid, the more playful, present-oriented purposes, the youth purposes, to have fun, to be present in the moment, right? And on the left side are interactions that typically reflect what we call a conventional purpose. Activities that reflect the conventional values that adults view as important to maintaining the fabric of social society. Get a job, go to college, stay in school, right? Were you going to say something? You sure? Okay. Because I know you don't want another shirt. So you would really be speaking from an authentic place, I know.
Get a haircut, get a real job.
Wow, you don't have to get personal. Okay. So we've got this conventional, adult, future-oriented purpose or this present, playful, youthful purpose. We'll see how this comes into play with the styles we'll watch in just a minute on the clips. On the top are the relational. These 3, and you have a separate sheet of paper, which is really kind of cool, that has the top group. You see those 6? That's on the first page of another handout you have. Nobody's holding it. Oh, here, it's right here. If you look at this one, you'll see 1 through 6 are this top grid. These are the ones that I want to characterize as more or less relational. So we're adding in kind of another dimension here, because if you look at this, what you see is these are interactions that typically are absent of a relationship. They can occur, like when little kids play with each other, they call that parallel play. They're both playing. This is parallel play between a mentor and a mentee, adult and a youth. There's no real relationship here, but it's fun. Over here, the preacher, there's no real relationship either. That's kind of that person who shows up and views the kid as a problem and is talking to the kid, but the kid's like, I don't know who you're talking to. You're certainly not talking to me, right? We're just sort of parallel doing whatever the opposite of play is. Parallel pain or something, I don't know. And up here is a model where there's no direction whatsoever to the match. It's just all over the place. Now, this row here we consider better because this whole row gets more relational. This is more relational, but it's heavily about play in the present. This is relational, but it's really focused on the future. I would put maybe like counselors in there along with role models. In the middle is our developmental style. It balances play and seriousness, and it's relational to begin with, right? But it's not so far from including goal-directed activities. The bottom chart here reflects the goal-directed. So if you go to the next page of your handout, which I'll just show you in just a second, you see the goal-directed. Those are 6 dimensions. And again, what you see is towards the middle, we have the there's more relationship here than here. These are typically devoid of a personal relationship. Karen, I know you're making so I don't mean to call you on the fact that you're on your BlackBerry right now, but I really need to point to you because Karen works in the area of apprenticeships. And so if she was paying attention, she would have yelled at me. Apprenticeships have a relationship, but I want to suggest that just like coaches, journey persons can do their job at a C+, B- level and not have a relationship. The best journey person, just like the best coach, is the one who moves from being only goal-directed to being goal-directed with a relationship. The coach who uses the instrumental style is the coach who teaches the skill, forms a relationship, right? And becomes a significant person in that youth's life for more reasons than having just taught the skill, right? Yeah, yeah, we haven't talked about that. There's a sense of once you've been given to in this way, you want to kind of give back. Whereas if you just learn the skill, it kind of stops there.
But they also learn how to be mentors and coaches themselves from taking on what they experience themselves.
Say that. Well, hold on. If you'll say that, it'll also give me a chance to pull my pants up.
They also learn how to be a mentor by modeling what they experienced through their own journey person as they were apprentice or succession of journey persons.
You're saying they can tell a story that's personal and interesting rather than I just learned this skill and I'm going to just teach you the skill.
Exactly.
It becomes about the other person. Well, that's nice.
And they learn to be a colleague and a peer.
If that A+ mentoring, that instrumental style has occurred. You know, I usually tell people that I wear a bow tie because I used to do work with kids, you know, but really it's because whenever I talk, my tie seems to shrink. Someone told me, Wayne, was it you? Somebody told me recently that actually it wasn't the fact that the ties were shrinking during my presentations, it was the fact that my pants were falling down. I was really sort of spooked by ties and why they kept getting shorter. I kept thinking they literally thought they were loosening during the day, you know, right around my neck. Okay, that was a digression. But thank you anyway, Karen.